Greetings everyone, welcome to another episode of Bobolog. My name is Bobby Olan and I am a knitter and crafter in Victoria, Australia. I am coming to you from the lands of the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people, and I would like to acknowledge them and pay my respects to their elders, past, present and future. Let's do a little housekeeping before we jump into content. So the links to everything that I talk about in this episode will be in the YouTube description down below. I think I forgot to say that last time because I've been so out of practice, but trying to get my head back in the game. What else is there? Yes, you can find me on Instagram at Platypus Knitting, although to be honest, I'm really more of a lurker there at the moment. I've barely been posting just because the motivation hasn't been there, and that's okay. I am also on Ravelry under my own name. Bobby Olan is my username, and yes, you can see all of my projects and everything there, which does remind me that I saw a setting at some point where you could make your projects public to people who aren't Ravelry members, and I think I wanted to do that to all of my projects, but I don't know if anyone is trying to look anyway who is not a Ravelry member. Anyway, getting sidetracked already. Is that everything that I had to say? Probably. If I remember anything else, it'll just slot in whenever it pops into my head. So jumping in, the first thing that I wanted to get to was just a quick follow up on the Curious in Craftlandia question that I posed for all of you last episode, which was about 5 weeks ago or so, probably 6 weeks by the time this episode actually goes out. Anyway, I had made something from a free pattern, and that pattern was no longer available online, and someone else had reached out to me asking if I'd be willing to share that pattern, and I didn't really feel comfortable with it, but I felt like I couldn't exactly articulate why, and I didn't know if that was just in my head, so I reached out to all of you, and thank you to everyone who responded. The general consensus is that it is not my pattern and I really shouldn't be sharing it. A special shout out to Kat of Oliphant Cat. Her brain clearly works where mine doesn't. I kept saying, I don't want to step on the designer's toes. I don't want to step on their toes, which isn't exactly what I meant. And Kat, of course, supplied me with the actual term that I was looking for was intellectual property. I didn't want to be infringing on the designer's intellectual property. So thank you, Kat, and thank you everyone else for sharing your opinions on what I should do. So that is that one laid to rest, and let's jump into handy dandy next. I have a whole bunch of FOs. The first thing that I wanted to show you, I just realized I'm wearing a clip in my hair, so I probably shouldn't model these. But the first one I wanted to show you is I have finished the Gothic Tracery beanie, which is by Kat, who told me about the intellectual property. So, all about Kat. Not really. But anyway, this is her lovely beanie design. It is probably my favorite of her designs. I fell in love with it as soon as I saw it, and knew that I had to make it, and I mentioned that in a previous episode, and she so very kindly gifted it to me, so all the thanks to Kat. Thank you. And this was a really fun knit. I love I just love the flow of the cables in this one, and it was just I don't know that I had done one exactly like this, where you've got like the two different motifs that oh god, I'm so terrible with words. What am I trying to say? They're not like side by side, they're staggered. Maybe that's what I'm looking for. So that was really fun to do, and it was interesting as well because usually with a lot of cable patterns, or at least with most of the ones that I've done, you have your cable row and then a rest row and then a cable row and a rest row. But with this one, every now and then you didn't get a rest row, so yeah, that was a yeah, it was interesting to see how she used that to really great effect in this pattern, and I love it. I wore it straight away. I feel like it's a lot more of a wearable beanie than the other one that I had knit for myself, and that could be because I knit this in one color and the other one is multicolored, but I don't know, I just want to wear this one all the time. So yeah, it's really great and I love it, and there's the crown of it there. I haven't actually blocked this one because I just started wearing it, and it has been cold and I have been lazy to block, but yeah, I really should. I know it will sort of help it open up and bloom and all of that kind of thing, but one day I'll get there. The other thing is, last time I mentioned that I didn't exactly love how visible and chunky the tubular cast on that I did turned out in this pattern, and it is actually, I'll just stretch it over my head a bit. I feel like it is actually really visible when I'm wearing it, because you can see how you can see through a little bit of the ribbing, but there's a really solid line at the base here where the cast on is, because it's kind of doubled up. I don't hate it, but I think I don't love that feature. But that's me. Now I know if I'm ever doing a beanie like this again, I will do a different type of tubular cast on so that I don't have that problem. I will also say that with that tubular cast on, I had done, it was the I think it was the long tail tubular cast on, but they recommend for working in the round you do the setup rows flat and then you join for working in the round and do that, and you just seam it. And I did a sort of bodgy like seaming that tiny little bit where it was separated, and it's really quite visible. But you know what, I just put that at the back of my head, and maybe I could put a label over that as well. So yeah, so that's the Gothic Tracery beanie. I love it. Oh, and it's in Cascade 220. Can't remember the colorway, but Cascade 220, and it's great and I love it. So that's that one. The next finished object is another beanie. This one is the Reykr Hat by Buckaloo. Buckaloo View. This is the second of these that I made, that I have made, and this one I made for my partner for as part of his collection of birthday presents. So that's that there. It's just a really simple ribbed beanie, and then you cinch it up at the top. But yeah, I think it's a free pattern, and it's really good. So you can choose to wear it like a bit slouchy if you don't fold the brim, but my partner always likes to have the brim folded and have it more snug on the top of his head. So that one is in Naturally Yarns New Zealand yarn in their Aran Tweed. It is a single, which I didn't completely love working with. It was also a bit problematic in the sewing up one, because, well, it's a single, so I knew for that reason that it wouldn't be quite as strong. So when I was cinching up that last bit where you pull the yarn through all of your live stitches and you pull it to like close up the hole, I was trying to be really gentle about doing that, but the yarn still just completely pulled apart. I probably should have given it a little bit more twist before I started doing that, just to sort of help the fibers hold together, but I hadn't, and it pulled apart, and it was a bit frustrating, and I just had to get an extra bit of yarn and do a lot more sewing around than I normally would. And you can't tell because it is so like pinched and bunched up at the top, and of course I would have pulled it through to the wrong side, but that was a bit frustrating, and I'm just hoping that it will not come apart. It is, of course, because it's a beanie, it's not going to have a lot of like, it's not going to be hard used. It's not going to have a lot of pulling and stretching and friction and all of that kind of thing. So hopefully it'll be fine. And that one I forgot to block as well. I actually, well, I blocked the next project that I'm going to show you, and I kept thinking, oh, there's something else I need to block. I'm sure there's something else I need to block as well. But I had completely forgotten about this, and I had wrapped up all of my partner's presents and given them to him. And then as we were about to walk out the door, I remembered and I ran upstairs and I was like, oh yeah, this is for you too. But anyway, he loves it. He wears it. He's worn it pretty much every day. He has had beanies in the past, but he hasn't had one in a while. And I wasn't sure, he did ask for a beanie, but I wasn't sure how much he'd actually wear it because I never see him wear beanies. So it's been really nice to see him wearing it every day, even just at home. Our house gets really cold. But yeah, it's always nice to know that your crafting is loved and appreciated. So that's that one there. So the next project that I am talking about is the Isabellina socks in Peyton's Wanderer. And these are the second pair of Isabellina socks that I have made. The first one was also in Peyton's Wanderer, but that is them there. The first one I did, I had done the... what was it? I think it was the toe and the heel in this yellow yarn. I'm pretty sure that's it. And the cuff I had done in the main color. But for this one, obviously I've done the toe and the cuff in the yellow, and I did the whole sock in the main color. So how I did these, I did explain some of this in the previous episode. So for those of you who are regular viewers, sorry that I'm repeating myself, but I'll just go over it again really quickly. Basically with this one, I did them one at a time and I held them together with knitting in elastic, and I did that all the way through the sock until I had finished the heel. And then I did the other sock in the exact same way, knit the whole thing, it's toe up by the way, so knit the whole thing toe up, held together with knitting in elastic, and then I broke off the knitting in elastic, and then I started knitting the legs two at a time until I completely ran out of the green yarn, which wasn't much. You can see it's a pretty short leg there, but my partner likes short socks. I did get him to try them on before I started knitting the cuff and let me know how long he wanted them, because I could have, of course, just knit like a really long cuff if he'd wanted a longer sock, because the other pair of these that I'd made are longer than these ones. But when he showed me how tall he wanted it, it was pretty much just, well, it was what you see now. So just a short cuff, and yeah, he really likes them. Yeah, he has worn them a couple of times already, but yeah, I really like this yarn. I really like this pattern. I think it's really great. And maybe one day I'll make some for myself, but I feel like I want to make a pair of these in every color of the Peyton's Wanderer, but well, we'll see, because I'm sure he's not going to like every color, but I'll have to see what else they have. Anyway, so that's those ones. Really, really happy with how they have turned out. They fit him really well. The yarn holds up really well, and I just love it. I love the this, it's sort of like has a semi-mild feel, the way that they've like blended the yarns. Oh, I don't know if I said this before, but I did want to mention that because of the stitch pattern on these, there are times where you can actually see the knitting in elastic. But now that I'm trying to look, oh, here we go. I thought I couldn't see an example. Can you see the bits of white there, that's actually the elastic. It blends in pretty much everywhere else, but just for how those stitches are formed, it makes it more visible. But I guess because of the color construction of the yarn itself, it's not super obvious because there is a bit of like color variation within it already. And yeah, I feel like it was a lot more obvious when I was knitting it, and now that it has been washed and worn, I guess it's like settling in, which is really great to know. I don't think I would do this again for socks. The first pair that I made, I didn't hold with knitting in elastic, and they've held up perfectly fine. I guess I sort of just wanted to see if like that would add any sort of strength or durability or whatever to it, but I don't, it made it really fiddly to work with, especially when I had to rip back. So I don't think I would do that again for socks. Yeah, knitting in elastic definitely has its uses, but I don't feel like I need to do it again in this application. So that's that one. What is next? Oh, yes. So the third thing that I made for my partner's birthday is a crochet project. And oh my gosh, this was, I'm not a crocheter. I do not consider myself a crocheter in any way. I can crochet. I have crocheted. I have made an amigurumi before. I've made a little zebra toy. And of course I made the cactus hand things for my cousins last Christmas. If you've seen that episode. But the thing with me and crafting is I will give anything a go. I pay no attention to whether anyone thinks that it's difficult or advanced or whatever. If it's something to do with my hands, I will try it. I will just try it and not care about how hard it is. I was in over my head with this one. So this is called the Tinker DOTA Amigurumi by Lazi Crochet. And this pattern is, so what it is there's this online game that my partner plays called DOTA. It's really huge. It's a massively huge, popular game. And Tinker is one of the characters in it. I know that it's not one of the characters that my partner plays a lot. He doesn't dislike the character, but it's not one of his sort of go-to picks. But he has played this character before. But of course, when I was looking for patterns to see if there were any out there that were related to this game that he loves so much, it was such a small selection of things. And so I picked this character to make because the other character I feel like I hadn't really heard of, and because I'd at least heard of this one, I figured maybe my partner likes it better. So anyway, let me just show it to you and then I'll keep talking about it. There it is. He's got his weapons, smoking a little pipe there. Don't look at his mouth too closely because it is horrible. Yeah, so a lot of the actual crocheting was fine. There was nothing that was really, really complicated with the actual crocheting of all of the parts. I will say that this was a paid pattern. And I will say that I didn't love how it was written. There were a lot of typos and there were a couple of spots in the pattern that were clearly wrong. Like there were sections where, like, see this, it's supposed to be, they called it the ear. I don't know how it's an ear when it's not the same color as his skin, but anyway, you can see that there's more light grey than dark grey, which is what the picture looks like. But in the pattern, she crochets, she says to crochet 2 rounds of the dark grey and 1 round of the light grey. But that didn't match what the pattern looked like, so I did 1 round of the dark grey and 2 of the light grey, which is what it looked like. So anyway, that's my take on the pattern. I didn't think that it was the best written. It is clearly an extraordinary feat of design because there is just so much going on with this thing. But yeah, I found all of the typos and the mistakes frustrating to find in a pattern that I paid for. The other thing that I felt like the pattern was lacking was instructions in the sewing it together. She was pretty much just like, oh, I keep saying she, I don't even know, like it just says lazy crochet. I don't even know if it's a what gender the designer is. They didn't provide a lot of instructions on how to sew it up. They were just like, sew the eyes on the head, sew the helmet on the head, so, you know, sew these 3 bits on top of the base, without saying, like, without any guidance on how to position them at all. No guidance whatsoever. It was just sew this to this. And there weren't even great photos. Honestly, it looked like honestly, it looked like they just had the one photo, and when they were trying to explain the various bits, like saying sew this to this or that kind of thing, they just cropped the image to that bit and showed it like that. And I found that really, really difficult. So it could be that it really is just a much more advanced pattern than I, as a very, very novice crocheter, should have attempted. But I really would have appreciated a lot more guidance on the sewing. Also, like, with the mouth, which looks absolutely horrifyingly terrible, that was another case where they were just like, now sew the teeth, sew the mouth and the teeth. And I probably should have looked up videos on how to do that kind of sewing, but I was kind of just so frustrated at this point and wanted to get it over with that I kind of just went for it, and it looks really horrible. Yeah. I am really happy with how it turned out. I think it looks really cool. I wish that he could stand on his own, but he's so top heavy, especially with these weapon things, that he can't actually stand up. But yeah, and my partner was so amazed and impressed with it, and that's all that matters. So that was really, really good. Yeah, I did want to mention with the sewing up as well, though, that like I recently watched Maddie of Mad About You's tutorials on how she makes her Edwards animals, her the amigurumis that she makes for family and friends, and she mentioned that she tends to get a bit impatient when it comes to the sewing up. And that is so totally exactly like me as well. I hated the sewing up of this. I don't mind, you know, seaming and all of that kind of thing when it comes to knitwear, but I think it was also that this just had so many parts to sew together with little guidance, like I said, that I was just frustrated for like the most part, and I was just like, you know, there was no guidance on like what kind of stitches to use to sew it together or anything like that. So I was just like grumbling and like, you know, putting it all together. So, Maddie, I feel you. You have a lot more patience than I do. I definitely just rushed the sewing up of this one. But I have to say, the patterns that she was talking about, it sounds like they have amazing detailed instructions and also helpful videos on sewing up the animals that she makes. So yeah, anyway, it's done. I will never ever ever do any crochet that looks anywhere near this complicated again, but I am glad that I've done it. I'm glad that he likes it, and that's Tinker. So that's that. Is that my last finished object? Yeah, that's the last finished object. Oh, I did buy an amigurumi set of like little cotton balls. It was by Katia amigurumi 100% cotton. But then I did also have to buy the purple separately, so I just got another cotton yarn, which was Fiddlesticks Wren. I think it was Sport or DK where the crochet cotton was fingering weight, but I was shopping with a friend who does a lot of crochet, and she said that I should be able to get away with it. And I did, obviously, but it was like I could tell the difference while I was doing the crochet. Like the bits in the purple are a lot denser and a bit like bulkier than all of the other sections because the yarn is thicker, but I think it worked out fine. Okay, enough about that. Next is oh, I have one project that I am working on. I still have, which direction? I still have the sweater that I started for my partner, but I realized very quickly that I wasn't going to get it done in time for his birthday this year, so that's kind of just been sitting there not being touched, so I won't talk about that. The one thing that I am working on now is my sister's fiance requested a scarf. He is a big supporter of the Melbourne Demons. If you follow AFL, Australian Rules Football, and yeah, he really wanted me to knit him a scarf that was in the colours of the Dees. I have to say that I don't love knitting scarves, and I'm not a big fan of knitting things that you can just find and buy in the store. So I did like ask a bit, making sure like, what do you want the scarf to look like? Do you want one that looks like what they have? Because I can just buy you that and you'll get it a lot sooner. His birthday has already passed. Like, I didn't start this until after his birthday because there was a bit of back and forth on what it should look like and all of that kind of thing. And I was trying to say, like, if you want a scarf that looks like one that I can buy for you, I'll just buy it for you. But he very much wanted one that I had knit. And he just wanted stripes. But me being me, and because I wanted it to have that little bit of extra interest for me and to also look like something that you won't just find in a store. Hopefully, I haven't seen one that looks like this. I, of course, had to do something slightly different with the design. So if you look up the Melbourne Demons, like their symbol, their logo, whatever you call it, it's like a dark, it's sort of like their jersey thing that they wear, I guess. It's like a red V on top, and then the bottom rectangle under the V is dark blue. So I decided that I would do that. I also decided that I wanted to knit this in the round so that there wouldn't be any purling. But of course, because I was doing that V shape, I had to learn how to do intarsia in the round, which I have never done before. It's sort of a simple enough idea, but it's very fiddly to do. And I I'll link down below the video that I used to learn how to do it, because it's really great. It was really, really helpful. And this is it so far here. I've left my tails hanging out the front because I just wanted them accessible in case, I don't know, there were any weird, odd, holy things that when I'm weaving these in I could use to like sew up. What is that thread there? So yeah, that's what it is looking like so far. So originally I had knit the blue in the round up to about there and then did the V, but then when I had finished the V and I looked at that, I wasn't happy with it. I thought that there was too much of the blue at the bottom, so I ripped it back a bit and then started the V lower, and then I did just a solid section of red. And what row am I up to here? This blue stripe here is going to be the first of like the stripes that continue throughout the rest of the scarf. So it just has to be a tiny bit thicker, and then the next red stripe will be the same thickness as this, which is just a little bit thicker than this, and it'll stripe for a while, and then the other end of it will just be a mirror image of that. So I'll have another little bit of intarsia in the round to do at the end. So yeah, that was really interesting to do. I will say that to do the intarsia in the round I had to cut the yarn, and I made like little balls, and I slightly overestimated how much of the red, and I decided that I would do like a sort of like Fair Isle style to like weave in that last bit of the red yarn. So when I started knitting the red completely in the round, I was doing like one ball red, one tail red, one ball red, one tail red stitch. And I kind of wish that I hadn't, because I feel like it's a really visible line along there. You can see where the end of that yarn is coming out, but hopefully it's one of those things that because I've made it and I know it's there, I can just really see it, and other people can't. And also hopefully, you know, that's the kind of thing that'll sort of ease with the blocking. So yeah, the other thing is with the stripes, I'm not cutting the yarn. I'm just sort of like leaving it attached and then pulling it up when I do when I get up to that color. Again, I really hope that that's going to work. I didn't want to catch that yarn in the back because it was showing through to the front, and because it's a tube, you're never going to see the inside of it. So hopefully I am not making these lengths too tight, and they're not going to like pull in the scarf and make it look odd or anything like that. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Oh, I am using this Abacus row counter stitch marker thing, which I love. I've never used one of these before, and it's really, really good. I actually, where have I? I'm just gonna get, I'd seen these around for a while and I'd sort of been curious about them, but I never completely, like, I felt like I would get confused in using them, because a lot of the ones you see, so you can see how the big rings here have the numbers on them. A lot of the ones that you see, it's like the ring and the number is the bead that's holding the two rings together. And I felt like if I used that, I would get so confused about if my needle is through there, is the number to the left or the number to the right that I'm paying attention to. So when I saw these ones, I thought that they were perfect. And I actually got a couple of options from this Etsy store. So it's Courtney's Cozy Knits. So the first one that I saw that caught my eye was this one here, which I really, really love. Oh, the numbers are facing me. Yeah. So I really, really like that one. And I was originally using that one with this project, but I was finding that this thin yarn was getting caught in some of the letters. I had used this with which project? Maybe I used it when I was finishing off the Gothic Tracery or the Reykr Hat. Anyway, this was completely fine when I was using it with a thicker yarn. It wasn't getting caught, but with the thinner yarn, I had to switch to this one, which is working perfectly fine. And then I did also get a set of individual numbered stitch markers from her as well. And these ones are removable stitch markers. They're 0 to 9, and I think they're really, really great. So, yes, I think that's all that I had to say about that. Yeah, so that's it for Handy Dandy. Up next is just a little bit of an eye candy. I want to work on something for myself. I want to work on a bigger project for myself, but I can't seem to decide. So one project that I am going to be working on that is going to be for home, so not just for me, is a blanket. So I definitely want to get started on the Optic Blanket by Purl Soho. I bought a whole bunch of the recommended yarn, which is, oh my gosh, what was it? Flax down? Flax something. Anyway, I think they were discontinuing it. I'd spent ages trying to find another substitute that had really similar fiber content. But I was struggling to do that. I hadn't found anything that it was 100%. And then the Purl Soho yarn went on sale because they were discontinuing it. So I decided to just go ahead and buy it. The thing is, my partner wanted this blanket in the black and white, the charcoal and white, but there was no more of the charcoal, so I bought all of the white, and I'm going to need to dye half of it black, so I need to do that. So the other things that, well, thinking about a sweater for myself, because I'm sort of keen to get another one going for myself, is there are two that I have yarn for that I really, really like, and I really want the finished products, the finished objects, but I can't decide which one to cast on next. So one of them is the Dione by Natasja Hornby, which I love. I love this sweater pattern. It's another one of those ones where as soon as I saw it, I fell in love with it. And I got the Tan Wan Coot yarn to make it in, and I still haven't decided if I want the top part of the sweater to be in a slightly different colorway from the rest of the sweater. So it's out of that one, and it's out of the Lisbon Pullover by Jessica Jeong. And I have a Fin yarn, yarn from Fin wool that's been hand dyed. I think it's been naturally dyed. Anyway, I have that as well. So that's two patterns that I have in my library that I also have yarn for that I really, really want, and I just need to decide which one to cast on first. And the other one that I've been thinking a lot about is there is this cotton gradient yarn that I've had for ages, and I have been thinking about making a shawl with it, but I can't. I'm sort of not sure about making a shawl in like a lace weight or thread weight, whatever it is, 100% cotton yarn. So if any of you have done this, I'd love to hear what your experience was with that and what the finished project was like. I think I have seen some shawls on Ravelry that I'm pretty sure were made in 100% cotton, but it's just not the same just looking at photos. Like I don't know, there's just something about the idea of it that I don't completely trust will work for some reason. So I have also considered holding it with another lace weight wool yarn. But even then I'm also like, it's gonna sort of like diminish the gradient effect of the yarn, and it'll give it a bit of a mild look, which I don't know that I want for a shawl. And yeah, I'm just not sure. Let me know what you think, and if you have made a shawl or a blanket or something like that out of 100% cotton yarn. I'd love to hear what you think of the end result. Yeah, that's eye candy. The last thing is just a really quick craft for thought, and that's just to say that in just over a week, it's going to be the Bendigo Sheep and Wool Show. So I went for the first time last year, and I'm keen to go again this year. I haven't bought my ticket yet, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to go on this Saturday because I just heard that it is just the best day to go, really. Last year I went on the Friday because I was concerned about crowds, and I am still a bit concerned about crowds, especially with how much flu and all of that have been going around this season. But pretty much planning on going on the Saturday. I know a lot of my online knitting friends are going to be there as well. There are a few from Sydney that booked a while ago and are staying in a place together. So it'll just be really nice to catch up with everyone, or, you know, meet everyone in person for the first time, which will be really, really lovely. And of course, you know, getting to, again, just be in that sort of environment and that energy, and, you know, seeing all of the amazing, wonderful things that local makers and producers have been working on, have got to share with all of us. So I'm really looking forward to that. The one thing about it, though, is I had always planned to submit my flared pullover, the yellow one that I made last year, into the Woolcraft competition. But because this year I have been so I've been so much of a hermit this year. I've barely been on social media. I haven't really done all of that much knitting. I've just sort of stepped back from it all. So of course I completely forgot to check when the deadlines were for all of that. And yeah, so I completely missed it and wasn't able to submit that jumper into the competition. Of course, that means I'll get to wear it on the day, but it would have been fun to submit it and see how it went. Yeah. There's nothing in particular that I really, really want this year. I sort of just want to like be there, and explore and discover all of the things. I will be trying to keep an eye out for project bags and pouches. But I don't have to come home with one. I just want to see as well, like what interesting tools or what new tools there may be. And of course, just enjoy all of the yarny goodness that will be there. And last but not least is Heartful of Craft. And this one comes with a little bit of a story. So for any of you longtime viewers, you're probably well aware that I have complained a lot about getting pains in my elbow and my wrist and just my arm in general from knitting. And I know that part of that is probably because, or would be because, I grip my needles too tightly. It's like when I am concentrating, I just generally sort of tense up. I like clench my jaw, and this isn't just for knitting, but I just tend to tense up when I'm really focused on and concentrating on something. So I know that sometimes, or often when I'm knitting, I do like have a bit of a firm grip on my needles and my work. And last year, at the end of last year, I actually snapped one of my wrong way around, one of my circular needles because I was gripping it too tightly. So that was really sad. But yeah, I sort of just put that aside, and I've kept it as like trying to be a reminder of myself to sort of loosen my grip a little bit. So that was towards the end of last year. And then when I was knitting those Isabellina socks this time, there was a point where, so first of all, when I was doing the gusset, I think it was when I was doing the gusset, I had some of the extra stitches on these Addy Crazy Trios instead of the, because I was magic looping it because I don't have a short enough circular needles for socks, so I was having to magic loop it, and yeah, so some of the extra need stitches some of the extra stitches were being held on these, and somehow there was some point where again I gripped too tightly and snap. I snapped that one as well. It's something about like when I'm gripping it like that, I must be like holding here and then like my grip is pushing too tightly down on the other end of the needle, so there's a tension in the middle bit there. Anyway, so told myself off for breaking that, but just continued on. And then there was another point not long after that where I had to rip a section back, and when I was pulling it out, guess what I did? I snapped my Lyca. I really don't know how to say that. Anyway, my beautiful Lyca needles broken. So I really like my wooden needles, but clearly I have too strong of a grip for them. So I went online and did a bit of looking around, and I found these Chaigu twist short combo, which makes like a really short, what is it? It can make a 23 centimeter circular to a 31 centimeter circular. It's got two, so yeah, it's got two different sets of tips. One that is shorter, one that is longer, but they're the same size. And then it has one shorter cable, one longer cable, depending on what you're needing. Basically, long story short, I want to say that I am grateful for my local yarn stores. I am grateful for how easy it is to find the things that you need and to buy them. And yeah, I had heard of these, and I sort of knew that these were what I wanted, but there was only one store I could find that had them. So Sunspun, thank you. I am so grateful for you. You saved me. And you also had a copy of a making magazine that I didn't already have, and I picked that up too. So doubly thank you. I am very grateful to all local yarn stores, but in particular for this episode, Sunspun. And that brings me to the end of this episode. I will try to film a little bit at the sheep show, but knowing me, I will probably forget, so we shall see how I go with that one. Hopefully it'll be about a month again before I see you. I'm going to try to do these monthly, but clearly even now I'm struggling to stick to 4 weeks, so we'll see. we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully I'll see you soon. Good luck with all of your knitting and all of your works. If you are going to be at the sheep show, I hope you have a fabulous time, and I hope you're all well. I hope you're all safe. I hope you're all happy and enjoy your crafting. Fare thee well.